If a 1700s scullery maid ruins a priceless silver spoon with, like, egg stains, her instruction manual tells her to do something absolutely terrifying.
Oh, it is completely wild to read today.
Right. She is instructed to grab red-hot, burning coals straight from the kitchen fire and just press them directly onto the wet silver.
Yeah, just intense, dangerous chemistry happening right there in the sink.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking past all the powdered wigs and the grand ballrooms of peak Versailles era opulence.
Exactly.
We are exploring the intricate, completely invisible machinery of a grand French household in the year 1700. And our guide for this is a remarkably detailed operations manual from the time.
Yeah, it's called La Maison Reglée, which translates to the well-regulated house. It was written by a man named Audiger,
Yeah.
and it's fascinating.
It really is, because, history so often points its lens at the wealthy lords and ladies, the people actually eating the magnificent feasts.
Right, the one sitting at the table.
Yeah. But our mission today is to explore the transition from those high-level management officers to the gritty, essential operational staff.
And the manual covers everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking specifically at chapters 14 to 25 of Book 1. It lays out the exact duties of everyone from the sommelier down to the kitchen maid and the lackeys.
We are going to uncover this stark contrast between the refined results of their labor, like those delicate fruit compotes, and the blindingly shining silver and the exhausting, highly technical reality of how those results were actually achieved.
It was not a glamorous life behind the scenes.
Not at all. I want you to put yourself in that mindset for a second. Imagine running a massive luxury estate. You are essentially operating a small, self-contained town.
Yeah, but with zero modern advantages.
Right. No electricity, no modern appliances, no digital communication, no automated spreadsheets, no security cameras.
Nothing.
How do you prevent widespread theft? How do you maintain pristine, world-class quality every single day when literally everything relies on manual human labor?
It's a massive logistical puzzle.
It is. And, well, this deep dive is going to show you the underlying mechanics of how it was done. So let's start our exploration right at the threshold of the master's table, with the individual responsible for guarding the finished, luxurious products.
Right, so the manual places a tremendous amount of weight on the officier d'office, or the sommelier.
The wine guy.
Well, that's the thing. In a grand French house, this individual wasn't just a wine steward curating pairings for dinner. They were the ultimate guardian of the estate's most portable, easily stolen wealth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Audiger's manual is very specific about their domain. They were handed the physical keys to the gold and silver tableware, the impossibly expensive fine linens, and the locked pantry.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the sommelier is basically like a modern food and beverage director crossed with a bank vault manager.
That is exactly what they were.
You go to them for a vintage Burgundy, but you also go to them to check out the literal gold plates.
Yep.
And their culinary duties reflect that high security clearance, don't they? Because the text says they were the ones in charge of making dry and liquid jams, compotes, creams, marzipans, and all the flavored waters and spirits.
Right, and keeping those specific tasks under the sommelier's control was a matter of pure economics.
Mm.
I mean, in 1700, sugar, rare spices, distilled spirits, they were astronomically expensive.
Like luxury goods.
Oh, absolute luxury. You do not leave sacks of refined sugar out in the chaotic main kitchen where a dozen people are just running around.
Yeah, that makes sense. It would just disappear.
Exactly. You keep it in the locked pantry. The sommelier handles the refined, delicate finishing touches of the dining experience because they are literally the only ones trusted with the raw materials required to make them.
That makes perfect sense. It's an internal security protocol masquerading as a culinary duty.
Yeah, well said.
But because they are managing such high-value liquid assets, they are under strict auditing rules. And this is where the manual's accounting math gets incredibly revealing, specifically regarding the wine cellar.
Yes, the wine math. This is so interesting.
Right. Audiger writes about a muid, which is a large barrel of wine that officially contains 280 pints. But the manual says the sommelier is only expected to account for 260, or maybe 265 pints when they report back to the maître d'hôtel, the estate manager.
Yep.
So wait, I have to push back on this. Is the manual basically institutionalizing shrinkage? Are they just giving the sommelier permission to skim 15 to 20 pints of expensive wine off the top of every barrel for their own profit?
What's fascinating here is the sheer pragmatism of that rule. The manual explicitly states the mechanical reasons why this allowance exists. It is not a blind eye to theft at all. It's a realistic accounting for physics.
Physics.
Yeah. So first, there are the dregs. The sediment at the very bottom of the barrel, known as the lees. You simply cannot serve cloudy, gritty wine to a lord. That volume is just automatically lost.
Oh, sure. You can't pour the muddy stuff at the bottom.
Exactly. And second, the wine is being constantly distributed in small measures. A splash here, a decant there.
Right. If you are transferring liquid from a giant wooden barrel into a crystal pitcher and then into a glass, you are going to lose a few drops every single time.
Exactly.
It's what modern bars call pour cost or allowable spillage.
Yes. By building this 15 to 20 pint buffer into the official ledger, the manual is protecting the staff from the inevitable realities of their job. It prevents the sommelier from being unfairly accused of cheating the estate just because the physical math doesn't perfectly match the theoretical volume of the barrel.
Wow.
It's a very sophisticated understanding of inventory management.
It's shockingly modern. It's like a retail store today accounting for a certain percentage of damaged goods in their budget so the floor workers don't get fired for like basic entropy.
Right.
Okay, so the sommelier handles the refined presentation, the finished product. But to truly understand the sweat and labor required to produce the rest of the meal, we have to journey down into the intense, highly structured environment of the 1700s kitchen.
Oh, yeah. Leaving the quiet elegance of the pantry, we enter what was essentially an industrial hot zone.
A hot zone, I love that.
It really was.
Yeah.
Oettinger outlines a kitchen that operates on a very rigid, almost military hierarchy, known as the brigade system.
Right.
At the top, you have the Ecuyer de cuisine, the head chef. Reporting to him is the rôtisseur, the roaster, who handles the intense heat in the meats. Below them are the aides, the kitchen boys who execute the prep work.
And at the very bottom?
At the foundational level, bearing the brunt of the cleaning, is the servante de cuisine, the scullery maid.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because just like the sommelier, the head chef has very specific economic parameters. But instead of a wine allowance, the chef's authorized profits are entirely different.
Radically different.
Oettinger's manual explicitly lists the chef's legitimate, sanctioned perks as part of their compensation. They get to keep the fat drippings that fall into the pans, the Leschefrites, the old, used frying fats, and the ashes from the massive kitchen fires.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Today, if a CEO hits their targets, they get a massive cash bonus or stock options. In the year 1700, you head up the kitchen of a grand estate, and your year-end bonus is a bucket of congealed fat and a sack of fireplace ash.
It sounds wild, doesn't it?
On the surface, that sounds like a cruel joke.
Well, to our modern sensibilities, it sounds like garbage. But you're looking at early circular economics. In a pre-industrial world, calories and combustible energy were primary currencies.
Okay, so they weren't just throwing it out.
Absolutely not. Fat and ash were incredibly valuable raw materials. The fat was essential. You could render it down to make tallow candles, use it to waterproof leather goods for the estate, or crucially use it to make soap. Yeah. And the ash from the kitchen hearths was rich in potassium carbonate, or potash. If you run water through that ash, you create lye.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right, combine that lye with the leftover fat, and through the chemical process of saponification, you have just manufactured your own soap.
So by granting the chef the rights to the fat and the ash, the master isn't insulting them at all. They are essentially letting the chef operate a highly lucrative side hustle manufacturing vital household supplies.
Exactly. In a well-regulated house, waste simply didn't exist. It was just a raw material for the next operational tier.
That is so smart.
It is. And while the chef is managing that overarching economy, the rôtisseur, the roaster, has an incredibly specialized, almost brutal set of duties to keep the raw materials flowing.
Yeah, the manual's pretty clear. They don't just stand by a fire turning a spit.
No, not at all. They are responsible for going to the market and choosing both live and dead meats.
Which is so different from today. If you're picturing a modern chef just calling up a supplier and ordering pre-cut steaks, erase that from your mind.
Yeah, completely different skill set.
The rôtisseur has to evaluate a living animal. They have to understand the supply chain, looking at a live bird to determine its muscle tone and health versus inspecting slaughtered meat for signs of spoilage without the benefit of refrigeration.
Right, no walk-in freezers back then.
The manual even says they are responsible for actively fattening the poultry on the estate themselves before slaughtering it and preparing the white meats. It is visceral, hands-on agricultural work happening just steps away from the dining room.
It really is. It's the gritty biological reality behind the beautiful roast pheasant on the silver platter.
Yeah.
And maintaining those silver platters brings us down to the servante de cuisine, the kitchen maid. Her job is constant, relentless maintenance, and Audiger provides her with highly specific chemical processes to achieve it.
Her cleaning methods are just wild to read about. I mean, she's sweeping, she's scrubbing, but the manual specifies she must wash the silver with bran water, like water steeped with grain husks, and it gives this strict instruction. She must use hay ash to polish the silver, never sand or grit from the river.
Right, and Audiger is outlining brilliant practical chemistry here. Think about the mechanics of washing greasy silver without modern dish soap.
Right, you can't just squirt some Dawn on it.
Exactly. Bran contains starches and mild compounds that act as a natural surfactant, helping to bind to the oils and lift the grease off the plates.
Oh, that makes sense.
As for the polish, river sand is mostly silica, which is highly abrasive. If a maid scrubs a silver platter with sand, she will leave thousands of microscopic scratches, eventually wearing away the precious metal and destroying the master's wealth.
Which would get her fired instantly.
Oh, without a doubt. Hay ash, however, is a much finer, softer carbon particulate. It provides just enough gentle friction to polish the metal and remove tarnish without degrading the silver itself.
And then there's the trick for the egg stains, which is the jarring hook we started with.
The red-hot coals.
Yes. If a silver spoon gets tarnished by eggs because the sulfur in eggs reacts with the metal to create silver sulfide, turning it black, the manual says she has to take red-hot ash directly from the fire and apply it to the wet silver.
It's terrifying.
The sheer physical danger of that is staggering. You are holding a wet piece of priceless metal and pressing burning coals onto it.
Right, because the heat accelerates a chemical reaction to lift that sulfur stain. But the labor involved in just keeping things clean is intensely physical and dangerous.
The kitchen was a high-stakes pressure cooker for sure. But we have to remember that Audiger's concept of a well-regulated house extends far beyond the interior walls.
Yes, absolutely.
The machinery of the estate faced outward as well, which required a whole different set of operational staff to manage the borders, the transportation, and the public-facing reputation.
Right. Let's look at how the estate interacts with the outside world, because that's where the illusion of effortless wealth is most vulnerable to breaking down.
Definitely. The manual talks about the Swiss porter who stands at the gates. His job isn't just opening doors, he's actively guarding against the theft of things like charcoal.
Which, again, ties back to that energy economy. Charcoal is highly portable, untraceable fuel. It's practically cash.
Literally burning money.
Yeah. Then you have the gardener, who is tasked with creating these elegant, sweeping orangeries and pristine landscapes. But their daily reality isn't just arranging flowers. It's the gritty, endless war of hunting garden pests and picking caterpillars off leaves by hand to maintain that illusion of perfection.
Just constant vigilance. But the contrast between the aesthetic result and the labor required is sharpest when we look at the stables.
Oh, the stables are fascinating.
Audiger outlines the roles of the coachmen, the postilions, and specifically the palfreniers, the grooms. In 1700, a team of quality horses was the equivalent of a fleet of luxury sports cars.
Easily. They represented massive capital investment and were the only means of keeping the lord connected to the court and the broader economy.
The manual details their work, and it is grueling preventative maintenance. The grooms are taking these massive horses down to the river to wash them, but you can't just dunk a hot, exhausted horse in cold river water and walk away.
No, it would be disastrous.
The grooms have to vigorously rub the horse's legs dry. If they don't, the horse could develop joint issues, hoof rot, or severe chills. And they are also meticulously cleaning the metal bits of the bridles so they don't rust.
And the mechanics of rust on a bridle bit are a perfect example of why this manual exists in the first place.
Right.
If a groom is lazy and allows the iron bit to rust, the metal weakens. The next time the carriage is traveling at high speed, that bit could snap.
Oh, man.
Suddenly, the driver has lost all steering control of a 1,000-pound animal, resulting in a catastrophic carriage crash. The groom isn't just cleaning metal, they are ensuring the physical survival of the estate's master.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Oettinger also insists they check the saddles for wear and tear daily to prevent saddle sores, because an injured horse shuts down the entire transportation network.
Every single task is a load-bearing pillar for the whole operation.
Precisely.
But perhaps the most crucial load-bearing pillar of all was the public-facing staff. The lackeys, the lackeys.
The lackeys, yes.
They are carrying the torches to light the way at night. They are serving at the grand tables. They are cleaning the booths. They are everywhere, moving between the private inner sanctum of the house and the public streets.
They see everything.
They are the eyes and ears of the estate. And this brings us to what might be the most fascinating, strategically brilliant part of this entire 1700s manual, the intense, almost terrifying warning about servants gossiping.
Yeah, Oettinger dedicates a very specific, detailed scenario to the extreme dangers of a chatty servant. He understands that the lackeys are the bridge between the house and the local marketplace.
He literally spells out a hypothetical situation. He says, imagine a servant goes into town and starts casually chatting with a merchant's wife. And the servant starts complaining. They say, oh, the masters are so difficult to work for, or we have such high staff turnover at the house, people are always quitting. Just standard workplace venting.
The exact kind of thing people do today at happy hour after a long shift.
Exactly. But Oettinger says the economic consequences of this gossip are swift and severe.
The manual lists the exact repercussions that will fall upon the house. Oettinger warns that because the servant gossiped and made the estate look weak, chaotic, or difficult, the local merchants will immediately retaliate.
How so?
The butcher is going to give the house the worst, toughest meat. The baker is going to provide the most poorly baked, stale bread.
Oh, wow.
The chandler is going to sell them the most runny, terrible candles. The grocer will give them the worst oil, and the fruiterer will unload all their rotting, inferior vegetables on them.
So, what does this all mean? It is brilliant, pragmatic logic. The manual isn't telling the servants to be polite because it's a moral virtue. It is treating servant discretion as a vital, critical supply chain issue. If you run your mouth, the house literally eats garbage for dinner. It's like a ruthless, hyper-localized Yelp algorithm, where a one-star word-of-mouth review instantly degrades your physical reality.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it tells us everything about how reputation dictated market power in the year 1700. We have to remember that this is a world without standardized corporate quality control, online reviews, or massive distribution centers.
Right. It's all local relationships.
The local merchants held immense power. They had a daily inventory of wildly varying quality, some prime cuts of meat, some rancid scraps. They had to decide who got what.
And they want to keep the good stuff for the powerful clients.
Exactly. If a grand house had an ironclad, powerful reputation, the merchants wouldn't dare insult them with bad goods. But if the merchants knew, through servant gossip, that the masters were struggling financially, or the staff hated them and wouldn't stay,
They become an easy target.
the merchants would actively punish that house by offloading their inferior goods on them.
So the merchants are basically using social leverage to manage their own inventory shrinkage. They dump the bad stuff on the houses that are too weak to fight back.
Precisely. The lackey's discretion, their absolute silence regarding the internal affairs of the house, wasn't just about preserving the master's ego or keeping embarrassing secrets. It was a strict operational imperative.
It's all about leverage.
Their silence was essentially protecting the estate's purchasing power and leverage in the local economy.
That is just incredible to think about. The butterfly effect of a single casual complaint to a baker's wife resulting in a dinner table lit by runny candles and covered in rotten cabbages. It really puts the immense pressure of the whole operation into perspective.
It does.
We have been on quite a journey through the Maison Reglée today. We started at the locked pantry doors, looking at the sommelier's highly calculated, physics-adjusted wine distribution, protecting the estate's liquid wealth, and accounting for the reality of poor costs and lees. We went down into the extreme heat of the kitchen brigade, looking at the head chef's fat-dripping and ash-based circular economy, and the kitchen maid utilizing bran water and red-hot coals just to maintain the silver.
Such a tough job.
We checked the exterior borders with the Swiss porter and the gardener and saw the vital preventative maintenance of the grooms in the stables. And finally, we saw the lackey's necessary silence and how a single piece of careless gossip could completely sabotage the entire estate's supply chain.
It reveals a vast deeply interconnected ecosystem.
Oh.
Every single role, from the person holding the keys to the gold vault to the person vigorously drying a horse's legs by the river, was economically vital to keeping the illusion of the estate functioning.
Yeah.
The magic only works because the underlying mechanics are so rigorously defined.
It's so true. The next time you are at a high-end restaurant or you check into a luxury hotel and you experience that seamless, beautiful service, I want you to remember Audiger and the Maison Reglée. Remember that behind every single moment of effortless luxury, there is a hidden army of operational staff sweating the details, managing the physics of the job, and following a very thick, very strict rule book.
Always.
But I also want you to ponder this as you go about your own week. We've seen how in the 1700s, waste was so strictly managed that even the leftover kitchen ashes and the old frying fat were factored into a worker's overall compensation. Nothing was thrown away, it was just transformed.
Right.
And we saw how casual, invisible gossip could literally ruin an estate's leverage in the marketplace. So, in our modern, highly digitized workplaces, what are our kitchen ashes?
That's a great question.
What are the incredibly valuable byproducts of our daily work, our data, our leftover efforts that we are just blindly throwing away because we don't recognize their secondary worth?
Yeah, what are we missing?
And perhaps more dangerously, what invisible gossip, what casual digital chatter on Slack or social media is quietly degrading the quality of the services we receive or the reputation we rely on today?
It's definitely something to think about.
Just like that grand ballet or the magician's vanishing coin, the polished result is never the whole story. The real magic, the real survival, is always happening in the gritty, technical, frantic paddling just below the surface.